On April 20th, 1999, two angry teenage boys bent on killing as many of their classmates as possible approached Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, and opened fire.
I'm standing in front of Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, scene of one of the worst mass murders in American history. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold strolled into this school shortly before lunch and opened fire.
They're tasing Columbine with guns and grenades.
Klebold and Harris were actually targeting Christians. Not only were Cassie Bernal and at least one other girl shot to death after being challenged to profess their faith, but other Christians were targeted as well. In the video they made before the Columbine massacre, Klebold and Harris spoke of their hatred for Christ and Christians. What you are about to hear are actual audio recordings made before the murders. Harris said of Jesus Christ, they pre-planned asking Christians if they believed in God and then killing them for their faith. Klebold and Harris planned to make fun of bracelets, what would Jesus do, commonly worn by Christian students, and then blowing them away. Harris then makes it known what he will do to Christians, and did it.
Declarations on Harris's website stated, "What I don't like, I waste. I have come to shake your faith." With bombs blasting and guns firing, Klebold and Harris came to waste several of their fellow students and shake their faith at Columbine.
17-year-old Rachel Scott was one of the first killed.
I want to be used by you to help others.
Over and over she would plead with God to use her. She'd just, please God, please use me. Please use me to show people the way.
Come to me, God, and make use of me.
After her death, her many journals were discovered, and a remarkable story began to unfold. Her diaries revealed a deeply spiritual girl with an extraordinary intuition. An intuition about her life.
This will be my last year, Lord. I have this theory that if one person can go out of their way to show compassion, then it will start a chain reaction of the same.
A month before Rachel died, she wrote a 2-page essay called My Ethics and My Codes of Life. And in that essay, she challenged her reader twice to start a chain reaction of kindness and compassion.
People will never know how far a little kindness can go.
Rachel's theory was that the smallest little act of kindness or compassion can ripple out.
My codes may seem like a fantasy that can never be reached, but test them for yourself and see the kind of effect they have in the lives of people around you. You may just start a chain reaction.
At the same time that she wrote that essay, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were making a videotape, March of '99, and they said, Eric Harris looks at the camera, her killer, and he says, we need to get a chain reaction going here.
Rachel shared a class with her killers. For one project, the boys turned in a video depicting brutality and murder. Rachel's project for the assignment also mentioned death, but in a very different light.
What if you were to die today? What would happen to you? Where would you go?
The teacher said you can draw anything you want, make a poster. She chose to take her hand, she put it on the photocopy machine and blew it up into a poster with rainbow colors, and she wrote around the edges, He gave His life for me, I will give my life to Him, Jesus Christ. And in the center of her hand, she wrote a challenge.
Tomorrow is not a promise, but a chance. It may not be there for you. After death, then what? Eternity is in your hands. Change it.
She was a doodler and did abstract art and things, and there were two themes that she repeated. One was the hands, and one was the rose.
I had a journal that I used to draw in, and one time she was spending the night at my house, and I let her draw a picture in there. So she drew her hand and swirls around it and drew a rose next to it.
Rachel's drawings of her hands and a rose would go on to paint a prophetic portrait of the future. Many of her writings also seemed equally inspired. On May 2nd, 1998, Rachel, at age 16, wrote a startling 3-sentence entry in her diary.
This will be my last year, Lord. I have gotten what I can. Thank you.
She
seemed to have a special calling from God, and that He was dealing with her in a very, very special way. And in retrospect, I think really preparing her for what was about to happen.
Rachel's very last poem spoke of tragedy.
Am I the only one who sees? Am I the only one who craves your glory? Am I the only one who longs to be forever in your loving arms? All I want is for someone to walk with me through these halls of a tragedy.
Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the school is in a panic, and I'm in the library. I've got students down under the tables, kids. Heads under the tables.
She goes on and writes on April the 20th, 1998. It's like I have a heavy heart. Now remember, this is 1 year to the day before she died. April the 20th. She had witnessed to Eric and Dylan 3 weeks before they killed her. She had a class with them. 2 of her friends overheard her talking to those boys about the Lord and about the violent videos that they were making. And she writes on April the 20th, 1998, it's like I have a heavy heart and this burden upon my back, and I don't know what it is. There is something in me that makes me want to cry, and I don't even know what it is. Things have definitely changed. Last week was so hard. I lost all my friends at school. Now that I've begun to walk my talk, they make fun of me. I don't even know what I've done. I don't really have to say anything, and they turn me away. But you know what? It's all worth it to me. I am not going to apologize for speaking the name of Jesus. I am not going to justify my faith to them, and I'm not going to hide the light that God has put into me. If I have to sacrifice everything, I will.
I have him in the library shooting at students with a lady that I have in the library on the phone.
Eric and Dylan came up over a hill at the back of the school. They shot a young man by the name of Mark Taylor, who was witnessing to 2 of his friends at the moment that he was shot. They then turned and shot my daughter in the leg, and she got up to run, and they shot her through the chest, and a bullet went through her backpack, and she fell. They went down some outdoor steps to the cafeteria where they killed Danny Rabaugh, a young man who was bravely holding the door of the cafeteria open to let his friends escape. They then came back up the stairs and walked over to Rachel, lifted her head up. Eric Harris lifted her head up by her hair and said, "Do you still believe in God?" Because he knew she had talked to him about God.
And Rachel looked him in the eye and said, "You know I do."
They retorted, "Then go be with him now," and shot her in the head.
And the last words she heard were, "Do you believe in God?" And the next words she heard were the very voice of God himself saying, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant."
As I was weeping and crying and fell to my knee, I heard the Lord's voice. He was speaking to me. He said there would be no more sin, no more lies, only peace and happiness in all of my cries.
And he said, "Then go be with him." And he shot her execution style.
And I believe that's exactly what happened. I think that she did go be with him.
I can't hate them. They win if I hate them.